Не се чува. Пробуджи, не се чува.
Ще опитам отново. Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Om Namo Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate
I'm very happy to be here together with you. And first of all, I'd like to offer my respectful obeisances at the lotus feet of my divine masters, who opened up my eyes with the torchlight of divine knowledge, and also opened up the intellect to overcome ignorance, and finally, who opened the heart in order to approach with pure emotions the divine couple. Today, we have to cover a very important topic, and this is the first main topic of the Srimad Bhagavatam, or the Bhagavat Puran, which is the primary creation. But before starting our journey in this ancient topic, eternal topic, let's discuss a little bit about our present condition. In our life as spiritual searchers, we try to understand the world, the life, the conditions that surround us. And in order to understand it properly, we need some support. What kind of support is available for human beings in general? The sages say there are three main supports in the spiritual search for humanity. One is the tradition, the sacred tradition. And usually a tradition is a very long-standing process. A tradition, therefore, is not so quick to act, not so quick to change, but very steady and preserves the truth that is contained in this tradition. The other means for humanity in general, for the spiritual search, is the intellect. Human beings are intelligent beings, and this is also a gift of God for humanity to understand better. For the last few hundred years, humanity has been using primarily this instrument to understand what is what. We live in an intellectual age for the last 500 years, and we can see the results and also the limitations of our intellectual capacity. Knowledge, science is very important, but it's not a complete, it's not a final instrument to approach the divine truths, the divine reality. The third instrument for humans to find their way and to understand the world around them is the intuition. Intuition is very different from the intellectual approach. And we can say intuition is a very delicate instrument. Practically, everybody has this intuitive capacity, but in most of the cases, this is very underdeveloped. They say that previously humans were more able to use this capacity, this intuitive capacity, because with this intuition, we can connect to a finer, a deeper, a more subtle platform of reality. Today, practically, we can say that the intuitive capacity of human beings is more or less blocked, very weak. We are very weak. The intuitive platform, of course, you can develop, but as we are not very familiar with this intuition, and we cannot properly use this instrument, therefore the results are questionable. So we see the limitations of this intuitive capacity. We can observe the limits and the problems that are created by the intellectual capacity. Therefore, our attention is focused today on the tradition that has a long past, and therefore it's got a bright future as well. India has preserved the sacred tradition in a very substantial, very living manner. Let's first examine a little bit the elements and the different aspects of this sacred tradition. Or simply we can ask why we take Bhagavatam, why we take Srimad Bhagavatam as a main source of inspiration, a main source of spiritual reference. Actually, three ways to achieve perfection or to act on a perfect level. Gurudev explained very nicely that these three ways The first is the Vedic way. The Vedic way of perfection is that you are born perfect. You are born perfect. You have all the qualifications of a perfect lifestyle. You have all the requirements to achieve, to accomplish this human journey. So you are born practically with all the advantages. If we examine ourselves and if we examine today's conditions, hardly we can say that we belong to this category, to the Vedic type of perfection. You come perfect, you stay perfect, and you live in perfection. The second path leading to perfection is the tantric way. Tantra in a positive sense, because Tantra practically means action. If we follow a discipline, we follow Tantra. If you follow Vaishnava Tantra, is also there because it contains all the discipline, all the rules and regulations that are suggested and required from the practicing Vaishnavas. So Tantra in that sense means practice. And what is the way to perfection in practice? You are not born with perfect qualities, but by the practice, you can achieve this perfection, the perfect qualities. So again, if we observe ourselves, even if we try to follow a very strict life, it's not sure that we shall reach the perfection necessary for us. Austerities, knowledge, renunciation, very strict cultivation is part of this way. By this, you can achieve perfect qualities, but again, we can see that maybe this is not very practical today. The third way of perfection is the Bhagavata way, the Bhagavat type of perfection, the Bhagavat type of spiritual practice. And what is this? This means you are not born with perfect qualities. You cannot achieve by strict rules and following practice, but by the mercy, the good necessary qualities can come to you. And I think in this school, everybody is invited, irrespective of having no good qualities, cannot achieve perfect qualities, but by the mercy is extended to everyone. So therefore we can say that the sacred tradition, the Bhagavad school, is very much connected to the Bhagavad Purana, because this maintained this practice, this spiritual way. The Puranas, the ancient stories, has preserved this approach to divinity. So we belong to the Bhagavad school of spiritualists, and therefore our main subject is the Purana type of revelation, the sacred tradition. In India, the different types and different layers of revelation are classified in the Vedas, in the Brahmanas, Aranyakas, as books, as different genres of spiritual studies. And there are also the Upanishads, and finally the Puranas. So one side is the revelation, so to say, and the other side is the sacred tradition. So we belong to the sacred tradition, and also the Srimad Bhagavatam belongs to the sacred tradition. So this is one reason why we choose Srimad Bhagavatam as a main source of information for us. But this is not the only source, or not the only reason. Why we rely on the Srimad Bhagavatam so much? There are two more reasons coming from inside the Bhagavatam itself, 2 or 3. At the very beginning, the Srimad Bhagavatam declares that Krishna stu Bhagavan Swayam, meaning Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is God Supreme. Therefore, we accept the authority of the Srimad Bhagavatam declaring who is God Supreme. It's very important to find the proper reference. If you want to understand life, if you want to understand the world around you, you need the proper reference. And if we don't know whom, which ideal we want to approach, how shall we achieve the goal? We need to specify the goal. And the Srimad Bhagavatam says, Krishna stu Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And there is another reference in the Bhagavatam itself, because at the end of the previous yuga, the previous epoch, Krishna has returned to his abode, finished his pastimes on this planet Earth. And therefore, today this planet is like abandoned by God. It's despiritualized. More the material, more the everyday conditions prevail. It's Kali Yuga. But it is said that Krishna has left the Srimad Bhagavatam here, which is like a literary incarnation or a book incarnation of him, a kind of presence, divine presence. It is very important to have a reference, a source of information that represents the divine presence for us. That it is just like to have God at your home, just like to have Krishna in your temple, in your ashram. The presence of the Srimad Bhagavatam, or to give this book as a gift to someone, is a glorious spiritual act by itself. So this is a second reason from inside the Bhagavatam, Krishna stu Bhagavan Swayam, and this is a literary incarnation of God Supreme. But there is a third reason why we appreciate the Srimad Bhagavatam so much, because it describes Krishna's pastimes so elaborately, so thoroughly. You can find tons of information about Krishna, his dealings with his devotees, his pastimes, his sports, sometimes on the more general platform, like revealing the truth or subduing the demoniac forces. But most importantly, in the Vrindavan pastimes, where he is associating with his devotees. And therefore, this book is so precious because it gives direct information of the actions of the Supreme, how he acts, how he behaves. Therefore, again, Srimad Bhagavatam is appreciated very highly. You can find a lot of information about Krishna in different sources, but here the focus is on the Leelas, and from among the Leelas, the Rasic Leelas. So on one end, the Bhagavatam declares Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and on the other hand, it declares the sports, it tells the divine pastimes of Krishna, the intimate pastimes with surcharged with ras, with the most intimate devotees of him. So therefore, again, I say the Srimad Bhagavatam is so important for us. But what about other references? If we examine the opinion of Srila Jiva Goswami, he also says something about the Srimad Bhagavatam. Let me quote. We know that Jiva Goswami is the philosopher from the Goswamis. He wrote thousands of pages and discussed the most important theoretical and theological truths of our tradition. So what he says about the Bhagavatam, he says the Srimad Bhagavatam is the fifth Veda. He declares that this is the fifth Veda. And just to quote properly, in our age, it is very difficult to understand the Vedas, what to speak of following the Vedas, and those who should have preserved this sacred tradition many times misuse and change, distort the words of the Vedas. Therefore, in the present age, the Puranas are the best purports of the Vedas. The most applicable purports of the Vedas. So therefore, if the philosopher in our tradition says that our attention is on the Srimad Bhagavatam, we can follow surely. And there is one final reason why we like Srimad Bhagavatam so much, because Mahaprabhu himself has picked this as the best source of spiritual information. The Srimad Bhagavatam is the ripe fruit of the Vedas. And why it is so sweet? Because it was transmitted, it was declared by Shukadev Goswami, and he was picking on the most sweet fruits of Krishna's pastimes. So these are the facts that support our choice, support our appreciation of the Srimad Bhagavatam as the fifth Veda, as the perfect purport and most useful purport of the Vedas, as it declares Krishna's superior position, and also as it declares the Leelas of the Lord. So let's discuss today's topic. Purana, the word itself, is very interesting because the first meaning is old, like history. History is old, ancient, traditional. This is what we can say. Purana is a traditional scripture. It's a very important source of information about the cultural, moral, practical, geographical or even the military background of the times, thousands of years back. But most importantly, this is a source book of spiritual reference. Therefore, therefore we appreciate. We are not searching for a scientific record of historical data, but we are searching for a spiritual reference. And Purana also has a different meaning. It's very nice. Rangacharya says, old yet ever fresh. Purana means old yet ever fresh. So that means it's a living revelation. Therefore, it is important for us. If you approach the Srimad Bhagavatam properly, then it will speak to you. Through this, you can approach the divine couple, and Krishna will speak to you through these pages, through these stories, through his pastimes. It's a living revelation. Old, traditional, but ever fresh, always up to the moment. That's very important criterion, so that our tradition is not something stale or non-applicable. The proof of a theory is the practice. The proof of a theory is practice. So what proves the validity of the Srimad Bhagavatam? That you can practice today. You see the practice. What is given in the traditional book, you can see it living today. And therefore we can join into this tradition. Therefore we can also be a practitioner in the Bhagavata school. So I think that is a very, very important thing. So it's not old and stale, but it's very ancient, traditional, and ever fresh. So this much about Puranas. Later on, we shall return to some other aspects of this kind of sacred tradition. Today's topic is about the primary creation. It's called SARGA in Sanskrit. SARGA is how the basic elements of creation are manifested. It's a little dry topic compared to the pastimes of Krishna, but nevertheless, we have to cover this because it gives a very important foundation for our practical philosophy. So let's examine a little bit how this primary creation is explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam. It is mostly discussed in the second canto, so let me quote. The primary creation of the 16 elements of material nature are called SARGA. What are these 16 elements? It's also given. The 5 basic material elements like fire, water, earth, air, and sky or ether. The sound, the form, the taste, the smell, and the touch. That is altogether 10. Plus the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, and the touch, the skin is 15, plus the mind. So these are the elements, these are the 15 plus 1 elements of primary creation. Of course, we are a little confused because usually we think that humans have the capacity to taste the taste, to touch the form, or to perceive the smell. And how is it part of the primary creation? How is it part of the first creation? Well, on the cosmic platform, at the very beginning of the manifested universe, these basic fundamental elements and capacities are first manifested on the cosmic platform. So not in the human beings, but on the cosmic platform. And it is very nicely described in the second canto. So if somebody wants to find the details, please read. It gives you a complete view and complete explanation of these details, of these elements. So you can check. Mostly this is in the 10th chapter of the second canto. But if we want to break down, if we want to analyze and understand the most important point here, the general point here, we have to understand that the primary creation is explained as an emanation, emanation theory. Different religions, different philosophies try to explain creation in different terms, in different ways. Some schools say that God created something from nothing. Of course, he's omnipotent, so he can do that. But other schools, they say that there is no starting point for the manifested word. It's always in a created manifest phase and then in an unmanifest phase. So ultimately, it's a cause for itself. Yet other schools, extreme schools, will say that practically this is non-existent. This is illusion. So these negative schools will deny the existence of the word, also of the individual, and ultimately they will deny the existence of anything superior, God, higher intelligence, whatever. So these negative schools will say nothing is there, nothing exists. We say everything is there. Everything is there on the absolute and also on the relative platform. So the created word, so to say, the primary creation is a reality. It's an emanation from the divine reality. And emanation theory, this is a very high class, high type of philosophy. Other ancient philosophical schools also used this explanation, like emanation theory. This is a very high class school. But this general view given in the Bhagavatam at the beginning, this general view is specified by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because it's a general notion, emanation, but how it works, this is the real question. And actually today, we try to approach this how of the primary creation, how it happens. If we can accept that there is an ultimate source of everything, as it is said in the Brahma Samhita, Sarva Karana Karanam, Krishna Govinda is the ultimate cause of all causes, then everything is a result, everything is an effect compared to this ultimate source, compared to this ultimate first cause. Everything is secondary compared to this. So Mahaprabhu declared that the emanation or the consequence is real. Is real. It's not unreal. So God is real, and His creation is also real. The cause and effect rule is called karya. The cause is karya, that is resulted, so to say. The cause results in the consequence. And Mahaprabhu's philosophy is Sat Karyavad. Sat means real, truthful, in reality. Karya means consequence, and Vada means philosophy. So we can say that according to the general rule of the Srimad Bhagavatam, that the creation, the energies are emanating from the ultimate source, Krishna, and as specified by Mahaprabhu, that the result is real, and this is his philosophy. Therefore, we belong to this Sat Karya Vada, meaning the real effect, the realistic consequence, the school of realistic consequence. Nevertheless, we know that the material creation, the material sphere, is not the final reality. It's not the final reality, but its existence is real because it is a special energy of the Supreme. And to be even more specific, excuse me for the dry data, but we have to specify here. Mahaprabhu and his followers, the Goswamis, explained that this Satkaryavad, or realistic consequence, in a specific way is a manifestation or a little change, a revelation, an emanation from the Supreme. But how there is a change in the Absolute? In the Absolute, there cannot be a change. It cannot change. So the ultimate source should not change, because if it changes by the creation, then it's not the ultimate. So therefore, Mahaprabhu said that the Supreme did not change, but his energies are changing. So, and we know that Lord Vishnu, Krishna, has three main types of energy. One, the internal spiritual energy. The other is the external material energy. And in between the two, the Jiva Shakti. Right? Spiritual energy, this is the superior. Material energy, this is the subordinate. And the Jiva Shakti in between. So these are the three types of energies that are emanating from this ultimate personal source. And therefore, life or the universe, whatever is manifested, is a parinama, a different type of emanation, different type of manifestation of the power of the Supreme Shakti Parinama Vada. I know it's a little complicated, but we had to specify this. If the cause is real,
Tudom, hogy ez kicsit nehéz.
the consequence cannot be unreal, right? So the cause and the effect, the source and the consequence are both real. That brings the reality of our philosophy. That gives the reality, the real nature, the positive nature of our philosophy. And also there are some points to consider here. as I mentioned, the manifestation of the primary elements in this creation, like the earth, water, fire, etc., are happening in a cosmic scale, on a cosmic scale. And it is said that Krishna has taken a Virat Purusha, or a kind of universal form, a cosmic form, so that all these different elements can reveal. And therefore, all the different planetary systems are part of this cosmic, huge cosmic body. The sun and the moon are the two eyes. The mind of this cosmic Purusha is the ever-changing moon, or the
Igen, hallunk téged.
the um, the breath of this cosmic person is the air. My favorite is the creative force, or the
Most
poetic
igen.
force. These are the small little birds. It's very beautiful. So everything that is manifested is somehow connected to this Purusha, to this divine cosmic personality. And what is important here is that the elements are not only on the human platform, but on the cosmic platform as well. And what is very important on this huge list of identity, like the planets are part of this bodily part, the animals are that bodily part, it is said that the humans are the shelter of this cosmic form. So we can also say, just for easy understanding, that God creates humans so that he can take shelter with them. It's a very nice concept, that the human beings are so dear to Krishna that he's ready to go with them, ready to stay with them. That means the humans are the shelter of this cosmic form. Why? Because the source and the result, the origin and the consequence, are both real. God is real, the humans are real. The supreme soul is real, the individual soul is also real. And they belong together. They belong. There is an original bond between both of them. So also, if we go a little bit further, it is said in our Rasic theory that the object of divine love is Krishna Govinda or Srimati Radharani, the divine couple. They are the object of the approach of a devotee. And the shelter of this divine love, or the capacity to love, is hidden in the soul. So this is the shelter of this divine love. So very beautiful. Again, this connection is established. So Krishna is ready to take the company of the loving devotees. The divine couple is ready to accept the services of the human being, the individual human being. Why? Because they have something in common. Creator and the created, they have something in common. Their nature is spiritual, and therefore we have a chance to communicate with the Supreme. Therefore we have a chance to return. Atmanam Atmana, by the soul, by your own individual soul, you can approach the Supreme Soul. So collect the best part of you, motivate the best part of you, and with this you can achieve the supreme perfection. So Vishnu, Krishna, they are the shelter of everything. All the manifestation is in the body of Mahavishnu, right? Everything is expanded from Mahavishnu's body. Or when Mother Yashoda was checking Krishna, whether he had eaten earth or not, what he saw in the mouth of Krishna, the vast universes. He saw a cosmic vision inside the mouth of a small little boy. That means Krishna or Vishnu, they are the shelter of everything. Everything is inside them. Yet the humans are specifically the shelter of the Virat Purusha, and a devotee is specifically the shelter of divine love. So beautiful, so beautiful. With this, they can establish their connection. We can establish our connection. This is very, very high and very, very beautiful. And why is it possible? Because the consequence is real. If we say that the individual soul is like a dependent reality on the Supreme Source, that means we belong together. That means we are part of not of the material sphere. We belong to the divine word, the divine reality. Or to put it very simply, we are not the body. You see, it's very, very easy to say, but such a huge background is there. So the primary creation serves the purpose of something very high. You can explain a thing, anything, in two ways. You can explain it from the origin, or you can explain it from the purpose. You can explain from the start, or you can explain it from the goal. So now we can see what is the purpose of this primary creation. Why all the elements, all the senses, the working functions, and the mind was created, the cosmic and on the individual platform. Why? In order to find your way back home, back to Godhead. The senses, the understanding, the intellect, the mind, the loving capacity of the soul is given in order to connect it back home, back to Godhead. This is the purpose. This is the purpose. So far we were discussing the origin, and now we discuss the purpose. What is the purpose of creation? The primary purpose of the primary creation is to help the jivas, is to help the souls to find their way back home, back to Godhead. There is another explanation. Why? Because this relative created, manifested universe, vast universes, we can say, also serve the purpose of divine leelas. Some specific leelas are manifested here. Krishna uses the material creation, so to say, also for his pastimes. It is a very divine purpose of the creation. How it started? By an urge. And we shall discuss later all these different factors and all these different topics that are discussed in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Today we had covered the primary creation, how the elements, how the senses, how the functions and the mind were created, and we tried to specify the purpose. Don't forget, the source and the result, the consequence, both real. The Srimad Bhagavatam declares that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, and also discusses the very intimate and sweet, loving pastimes, and therefore it is so important for us. And also, Atmanam Atmana, with the best of ourselves, with our spiritual identity, we can find our connection with the Supreme. These two birds belong together. there is an original connection between us and the Supreme. And the goal of spiritual life or spiritual endeavor is simply to revive this original consciousness, nothing more. It's given, it's there. We need to revive this original consciousness. And finally, let me quote one verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam. It is also coming from the second canto, and it says, "What is the use of a long life if we waste it on the material plane? One moment of purified consciousness is more precious because by this we can start our journey searching for the goal of our life." Everybody wants to live a long life. But what is the use of a long life if we simply waste this life, this chance, and we repeat what we had perceived in the previous creation cycles, in the previous lifetimes that we had spent here? What's the use of repeating the same mistakes? Better to have one moment of purified consciousness, because that will give us the first kick, the first step on this long journey to find our spiritual fulfillment, to find the supreme goal of our life. So thank you so much for the attention, and in this way you helped me a lot to remember what I have learned from my masters. And please stay connected. Next time we shall discuss the second main topic of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and this is the secondary creation. Today we covered the primary creation. Next time we shall cover the secondary creation. And finally, let me offer my respects to our spiritual masters and to you, dear listeners, and I wish all good success in your spiritual endeavors.
Srila Gurudeva Ki.
Jai.
Maybe we can unmute all.
Jai, Jai.
Jai Jai.
Radhe Radhe.
Radha Jai.
Thank you.
Oh,
Haribo.
Haribo.
so nice.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Maharaj.
Oh, you are here. Oh my God.
Radhe Radhe.
Best of the life.
Radhe Radhe.
Oh, so nice. Warm
Thank you, Maharaj.
embrace.
Very nice. Very nice, Maharaj.
Thank you.
When are you coming to Croatia?
You don't see me there? I'm there. I'm sitting with you.
Yes. Physically.